TIL of the ABCD system of aircraft maintenance. A and B checks are routine checks, while C is more intensive. D checks happen every 6-10 years and require the entire plane to be disassembled and the paint stripped. A checks are for after every flight and B checks are before every flight. We don't use C and D checks in the RCAF, we used flight hour and calendar hour checks. For example, on the airframe I work on, a 1200 hour check is your big periodic check. We have a lot of checks. Every subsystem has its own maintenance schedule. Some are as short as every 10 flight hours or once a week for calendar-based maintenance. Aircraft frames are also rated in hours. Eventually the stress from compression changes and general metal fatigue makes it unsafe to fly. One of the reasons the DC-3 is still a popular cargo plane in places like Alaska. 50k hour airframe. They fish them out of boneyards for rebuilds. One of the cheaper cargo planes you can own. Pretty sure 747 is around 8,000 hours. One issue with this is that the aircraft manufacturer sells the required parts and gets to choose a maintenance interval. Creates a conflict of interest. This dominates the cost for many aircraft. It's why a helicopter costs several $100s a flight hour, it's these required rebuilds. With that said, I cannot deny it works. We have similar testing procedures in elevator maintenance. We have Category 1, Cat 3 and Cat 5. Cat 1's being the gravy job annual basic function testing. Cat 5 being a bit scarier, and full-on safety testing. That's where things can break and your building may be left without an elevator till repairs can be done and tests completed. Most machines follow a similar system of maintenance up to and including complete disassembly in certain cases. Of course they may do it in-house or purchases of said machine comes with maintenance by the OEM. I'd actually be more concerned if something didn't have a maintenance cycle. Smiley face. I work in this stuff we bill Mrs. Maintenance reserves through the course of the lease so that when it comes time for maintenance, the lessee has a bank of funds to pull from that they've been paying throughout the lease. Can get a little more complex than that, but it's the gist of it. My dad was an AP and later an FAA inspector. Many a time was there a shocked Pikachu-faced doctor or lawyer that was informed that their Cessna 172 that they bought for $15,000 was going to need a 1,000-hour inspection that would most likely cost more than the purchase price of their plane. My daughter and her dad are both airline mechanics. They even go up with the pilots and deliberately cut the engine to see what happens. It's serious work, but it takes a sense of humor to do it. It's also neat to see all the broken parts planes laying around. I've watched sea-level checks on MH-60 while in port. They stripped the thing apart on the flight deck, inspected, replaced oils, and lubbed everything. It was a lot of work. It took the aircrew around a little under 2 weeks to do. This must be for military aviation. In civil aviation we use AV-18 for required maintenance checks. Annual airworthiness directives. VOR inspection. 100-hour 50 hours is required. Altimeter pedostatic. Transponder. ELT. It also should be mentioned that they're regimented and very clear on timelines. If your engine needs to be rebuilt after a set number of flight hours, there's no wiggle room. No rebuild? No clearance to fly. I grew up next to the largest private AF in USA. I knew the family that sold Cessnas, as they lived just 2 doors away from my beloved GMA. But never once saw that. It's commercial rules, not private aircraft, I guess. See, the disassembling of the plane is what worries me. Are you going to put it back together properly? You won't forget anything, right? Seems like another potential source of problems. This is why I laugh when people talk about the equipment left in Afghanistan being free to use by the Taliban, as if they have the equipment or knowledge to keep any of it maintained. Pre-2008ish the unit responsible for the D-style maintenance was called ISIS in the US Navy. Isochronal inspection system? So you could be an ISIS in the US Navy. I'm AP mechanic with American Airlines. I love Class D maintenance. I work on the plane all week, which is also why aircraft can be up for decades, I guess. Maintenance keeps all vehicles running. This is mainly for airliners. No one is completely disassembling their 50-year-old Cessna. If you disassemble a plane and put it back together, is it even the same plane? I'm gonna need some pliers and a set of 30-weight ball bearings.